The better player between Nico Iamaleava and Gaston Moore is who?
Very obviously Nico Iamaleava.
Okay. The better chance to beat Georgia is presented in which player? It is?
Very obviously Nico Iamaleava.
Okay. However, Tennessee's defense, would you agree or disagree, will keep the Vols in the game no matter who is at quarterback. This will not be the 27-13 thumping like Tennessee suffered in 2022 that felt more like a 45-6 thumping. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I totally agree, because as you consistently and adequately and accurately point out, defense travels.
Okay. Let's say Gaston Moore goes out there. And again, we've reported that we believe firmly that Nico is going to play. But for funsies, let's say Gaston Moore goes out there and that he is your starter and that Tennessee is in the game and they cover the spread. The spread really shouldn't matter, but let's say it's a one-score game. Let's say Tennessee's inefficient on offense because Gaston Moore doesn't have the ability to stretch the field, can't make all the throws, and Tennessee manages to score 17 points. And then let's say Georgia, because they have an extra opportunity or so, because Tennessee's not able to control the ball and or put the Bulldogs in a corner score-wise, let's say Georgia scores 24 points. Now, if you're the committee, you have looked at Tennessee and you've said, no Hendon Hooker, they're not getting in. You said Florida State, they're not getting in last year because of the young man whose name that suddenly escapes me that's hurt.
Jordan Travis.
Okay. So let's say that just for instance, Gaston Moore goes out there and they lose a one-score game to Georgia. Nico Iamaleava comes out the following week against UTEP, plays really well, everything's fine. They blow out Vanderbilt. Does Tennessee get the benefit of the doubt in a road game at Georgia that's close with their backup quarterback who is still technically a walk-on? Caleb, I would actually say that might be Tennessee's surest way to get into the college football playoff. I know beating Georgia is in reality it, but man, I think that if that played out exactly the way I laid it out, I think Tennessee is absolutely in as long as they beat Vanderbilt by, 20 or so points. I know this is a better Vanderbilt team. I'm not sliding Vanderbilt, but I think they're a lock to get in if that scenario plays out.
All right, let's unpack this for a minute, because this goes to what I previously talked about, how I said it's going to be hard to decipher the SEC teams because, okay, let's pull the hypothetical here. The debate over whether or not there's going to be an SEC team left out comes down to the assumption that Georgia beats Tennessee and Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Alabama all finish 10-2. The reason that's going to be so hard to figure out who to leave out is because you're going to have to leave out somebody who beat somebody else. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
So if you leave out Ole Miss, you'd be like, well, they beat Georgia. If you leave out Georgia, you say, well, they beat Tennessee. If you leave out Tennessee, you say, well, they beat Alabama. If you leave out Alabama, you say, well, they beat Georgia. So how could you put one of those teams over any of them? If they do come to a situation where one of those teams is left out, which I don't think they're going to come to, by the way, but let's just say they do. Tennessee will get in over Georgia at that point. Because of those common opponents' records, they're all 10-10. Whose win is the least impressive, Dave? It's Georgia's over Tennessee at that point. If you say Tennessee beat Alabama with Jalen Milroe, a Heisman contender, playing at quarterback. Alabama beat Georgia when Georgia was at full strength. Ole Miss beat Georgia when Georgia was at full strength. Georgia's only win. They all beat somebody else in here, but Georgia's the only one to lose to two of these teams, and their only win in this cluster is against a team that was playing a walk-on quarterback, and they beat him by home, and if it's within a touchdown, I mean, Dave, I'll just say this. I throw out what I said last. I actually think if Tennessee beats Georgia, I've said it's not an elimination for Georgia. But if Tennessee keeps it close with Georgia, with Gaston Moore at quarterback, not only do I put Tennessee in the college football playoff, I throw Georgia out. I don't even consider them for the college football playoff at that point.
Nice. Okay. And there's precedent for doing this, aside from the ones that I've mentioned, because you look at the University of Alabama and you can get a mulligan. You absolutely can. 30 seconds for Medicare. Misty, she's licensed in over 40 states. It's open enrollment time. Medicare, Misty, no charge for her services. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here.
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
He does. Now, Alabama needs to go undefeated the rest of the regular season. But Alabama has how many losses, Caleb?
2. They have 2.
Okay. And did they occur mid-October or before?
They occurred all mid-October and before.
Okay. Where do they rank right now in the college football playoff?
Right now, in the college football playoff, they are number 10.
Okay. So if they win out, they're in it, right?
They're absolutely in it, yeah.
Okay. They gave Alabama a mulligan because it was a first-year coach in Kalen DeBoer. So they're taking into account, I believe, who's playing the best football. So it's not just a resume thing, because Alabama looks like they're coming together. Jalen Milroe looks like an exciting player. So Nico looks like an exciting player. So there is reason to believe that if Gaston Moore went down there and started, and again, Tennessee finished the season against UTEP and Vanderbilt. Again, I believe Nico's going to play, but there's reason to believe that Tennessee could get a mulligan. And I don't think it's insane to say that at all, Caleb.
No, I don't think it's insane to say that at all either. I think Tennessee could absolutely get a mulligan, and they're already giving them a mulligan for the Arkansas game earlier in the year. Look, let's call it what it is. You point out it's a TV show. Well, what is a factor in the TV show? They want not just stars. They want the teams that are playing best at that time. Do they not?
Yes.
I mean, you want the teams that are better in November than they were in September. And you're going to lean towards, first of all, the AP poll's always done this. And people get mad at them. I actually think they get this right, Dave. I do think you should lean more favorably to what happens later in the season. Because, quite honestly, teams are different later in the season. And I think if you're putting together a playoff, you don't want to say, well, if two teams have an equal resume, but one looks way better in November and the other looks way better in September, would you not take the one who looks better in November?
Absolutely.
Like, you want the teams playing better. You don't want TCU and Georgia 2 years ago. And by the way, I would really like to point this out for everybody who thought that expanding the playoff would get rid of the controversy. It didn't, because now you have these expanded conferences, and we're going to do my picks later in the show. And the expanded conferences, you realize how much of a reduction in top 25 games there has been this year, Dave? It's been, there's been so many fewer. This is the second week in a row I'm going to be picking SEC and top 25 games, and there are no top 25 games out of the SEC. So miss me with the whole SEC's down stuff. Okay, too many Big Ten teams are beating up on way too many bottom feeders in the Big Ten. So I just had to give that rant out. But yeah, they're going to favor, you're right, they're going to favor who's playing hot at the right time. Tennessee's loss to Arkansas was in the first weekend of October. They're going to give them a mulligan for the loss to Georgia if they play with Gaston Moore. If Gaston starts, they're going to play close. Dave, this goes to my theory. I keep saying it. This is how you throw the SEC championship game, okay? You sit there and you say that Nico Iamaleava is hurt. and banged up. And so you
No,
got to start
okay,
Gaston Moore.
okay, that's
Look how precedent.